Welcome to the Sedro Woolley Rotary Club meeting on Thursday, the best Rotary Club in the Mr. Aldi, invocation.
Hello. Okay. So I just got a saying. I was sitting last night with my wife on the couch as she's doing her notes. And so I wanted to come up with a thought. It's almost the end of 2022. So as we near the closing of 2022, the word that came to my mind was crisis. More so now than ever, we live in and we're surrounded by crisis, whether it is an international conflict, health epidemic, weather disaster, or loss of loved ones. And you might be surprised when I suggest that we need to look at crisis not as a disaster, but as an opportunity. And I think maybe this year we were offered the gift of crisis. The Greek root for the word crisis is to sift, as in we shake out the excesses and leave only what is important. That's what crises do. They shake things up until we are forced to hold on to only what matters most. The rest falls away. So I'm hopeful that in 2023, we learn to understand crisis as an opportunity to really evaluate what matters most. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Aldi. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The four-way test: is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And Mr. Nielsen has a song.
Okay, well, it's kind of gloomy outside. We better sing "You Are My Sunshine." You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
And if you'd remain standing just for a minute, I just think we need to have a moment of silence for our friends Paula and Deb and everybody else that we know that has not made it to the new year. So just a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any visiting Rotarians here today? Visiting Rotarians. Okay. How about guests of Rotarians today? Yeah, you're going to owe a couple dollars.
I have a couple guests today.
Yeah.
First off, I brought my daughter Megan.
Megan?
Yeah, future Rotarian, hopefully, And then my second guest is Kara Nye. She is from Burlington, Kiwanis, and she is selling their fundraiser, smoked salmon. So Karen.
Yeah, Karen emailed me the other day. Their big fundraisers are the salmon and all that kind of stuff, and they have an abundance of. And she wanted to know if she could come, and I said, absolutely. We are salmon eaters. Come on over. So Karen, go ahead.
Yeah, so my name's Kara Nye, and I'm with Burlington Edison Kiwanis. And this year, due to weather, we ended up with an abundance of smoked salmon. So we are reduced the price, and it's $15 a side, which is like $4 over our cost. It's locally sourced salmon from Barlean's up in Ferndale. Keeps really well. It needs to be stayed cold, however. So it's all prepackaged. I could take a check, cash, card, whatever you prefer.
Okay, thank you, Karen. And back to Mr. Janicki, because we do have a visiting Rotarian.
I have my good friend here, Don Wick. And we just needed to get together. We keep running into each other. And so we're having lunch where he may tell a joke or something, but hopefully not. And anyway, welcome, Don Wick.
Welcome, Don. Welcome, Karen. Welcome,
It's
Megan.
been a while.
And Don did promise he was not going to go with the Ballard cheer, which is, go ahead, Don, go. Because everybody needs to know it.
Phil's a Ballard graduate. I graduated from Ballard, and we normally wind up at the Good Old Boys of Ballard in December down at the Ballard Elks Club. Phil couldn't make it this year, but it's so. Here's the yell. Lutefisk, lefsa, therefore Ballard, yeah, sure, you betcha.
There you go.
That's it. And I'm surprised. Are you having lutefisk today? You should. It's December. You should have lutefisk.
So put that image in your head with cheerleaders at Memorial Stadium in Seattle making that cheer. Maybe that's not the right one. All right. Thanks, Don, and welcome again. All right. Any other guests? Okay. Well, thanks everybody for coming. Little club business. Next week, we have the orchestra. Paul Brask is going to be the orchestra here on January 5th. We have a board meeting coming up in January. We're going to talk about dues a little bit more. District Governor, January 26th. So we're all ready for him. Raj is going to come on the 26th. Curtis, I haven't had an update from Curtis about dictionaries over the last week or so. I'll give him a call and check in with him. But the last time I talked with him, they were on order and they were coming. So unless somebody knows something I don't know about dictionaries, okay, we're waiting on Curtis and we'll get that going. And I was just talking to Christine a little bit. Christine is up for the trip to Melbourne for the Rotary International Conference this May. So Steve is going to start looking through, see if there's any kind of slush fund or anything on the other side of that. So we'll talk a little bit later, Christine. And then, yeah, this is all her idea. Anna Cordes Centennial Celebration, February 23rd. Just a reminder, if you're interested in going, I think we still have 5 seats available to go. Any other club business? Okay, we do have a raffle then. So let's go with that.
Get your numbers out, and you notice there's a couple of blank spots here. If that happens, you can go again because we don't have those anymore, certificates, or you can bypass the wheel and pick up some beer or wine. Okay, first number. Number 9. Number 9. Nope, number 6. Just playing with you.
Are you
okay,
sure?
Here we go. Okay, man after my own heart. Next number. $70. Brian Gansky's age. Perfect. There we go. Okay, and one more number. Number 69. All right, Becky, come on up.
Okay, Sergeant of Arms.
That's me today. Have we gotten people for birthdays and anniversaries? Yeah, I missed one of the Thursdays. We didn't find you for your anniversary, Mike. All right. Wait, what's the going rate? Two for birthdays?
Yeah.
And anniversaries, or 3 for anniversaries?
I think we're going with 3 for anniversaries.
3. All right. So $2 for a December birthday and $3 for a December anniversary. Who can help me pick up? Let's see. Thank you. All right, I think we just need one person today. All right, so today's program is going to be about fantasy football. And I'm a big fantasy football player. I played for maybe 20 years or so, 15, 20 years. I can't even remember. So, you know, I know kind of the ropes a little bit, but I haven't won in a while. I'm on a bit of a dry spell. So, but I am in the championship game. We have a league at Janeke with some people, and I did make the championship game. So, so good luck to me on that. So a little bit of trivia today about fantasy football. I'm going to go table to table. I don't usually do something like this, but I was kind of searching for ideas. So we'll start with this table here. Did we get everybody's birthdays and anniversaries? All right. Oh, well, hey, first, before we get into that, it's Husky game day today, right? Where's my Huskies out there, Steve? Okay, everybody that raised your hand if you're not wearing any Husky apparel. Rich, are you wearing a Husky tie? It's a Husky game day today. If you're not wearing any Husky apparel, that's $2. Come on, guys. Good job, Dad. Good job. Good, good. I know you got a Husky shirt somewhere, John. All right, so let's get that out of the way. All right, you guys got to wear your Husky apparel on game day. All right, so this table here. All right, fantasy football trivia. When was fantasy football started, basically? In what year did fantasy football start? When was the world's first fantasy football league? Hold on, I'll give you a hint because this is difficult. All right, that's $2. That's $2, John. $2 for chiming in. All right. I'll give you a hint. George Blanda was the quarterback. George Blanda was the quarterback in this year. And he played forever, so it's not that great of a hint, but. No, you're wrong. 1963. 1963. Yeah. Okay, that's $2. $2. All right. All right. Okay, here's a good one for you guys. All right. Let's see. I'll go on to this one. Okay, so fantasy football is about scoring points. Okay. So the players that you choose for your team have to score points. So you got quarterbacks and running backs and wide receivers, players like that, kickers, defense. Who is the top? Now there's one more week of the season left, right? I think one more week. But who is the current top fantasy football points leader right now? Bill says a kicker. It's not Russell Wilson, yeah. Who is the top fantasy points leader currently right now in 2022? I can tell you it's not a kicker. I'll give you a hint, Bill. Nope, not Derrick Henry. That's $2. It's Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is in the lead. Yeah, all right. I'm 2 for 2 so far. All right. Okay, quarterbacks usually are the top fantasy point scorer, just so you guys know, okay? They touch the ball almost every play, so they have more of a chance to score points, so it makes sense, right? Okay, who's the top fantasy points leader that's a non-quarterback this year? A non-quarterback. You got to go way down the line to get to a non-quarterback. Come on, come on. Top fantasy point scorer that's a non-quarterback. It's not a kicker. I'll give you a hint. All right. All right. What's your answer? Oh, that's a good guess. Good guess. He was a couple of years ago. It's Justin Jefferson, Minnesota wide receiver. That's $2. All right. Okay, let's talk about kickers. Who's the top kicker this year? This is going to throw you guys off. Who's the top kicker this year for 2022? Huh? What's fair? What's fair? Huh? Well, yeah, this is most leagues. This is most leagues. That's good. Yeah. Who's the top kicker? Name a kicker. That's a good guess, but no, it's not Gano. It's Brett Maher from the Dallas Cowboys. So they can't get into the end zone, so they got to kick it all the time. So, all right. Here we go. It's your turn. So a lot of fantasy football leagues have a flex position. What positions make up, the most common flex position in the fantasy football league? You're close. You got it. All right. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. You guys don't have to pay. Okay. All right, let's see. What's next? Did we get all the tables? Is that everybody? A little light attendance today, so that's pretty easy. Okay. Yeah, I know. I'm not going to ask this table. Let's see. And by the way, I'll pay for our table, even though I knew the answer to that question. I would have got it right. All right. Okay, so we got some time today. Daryl, you're only going to be what, 15 minutes or so? All right. So we have some time today. And before we get into Happy Bucks, I want to do something else. In fact, Chris, where's Chris? This was her idea. I'll give her the credit. Let's pass the microphone around. This is our last meeting of 2022. You know, people are already starting their New Year's resolutions for next year, probably goals, whatever they want to do for next year. If they want to make the world a better place or make this club better in some fashion or personal, you know, or business related. So let's pass the microphone around. Who's for $2? Who's got a goal or resolution for 2023? I'm sure someone has one. So anyone? Who's going to kick us off? All right, Chris, I knew you'd do that. Here you go.
All right, well, see, my resolution for the club, myself in the club this year is I'm going to try to make it to at least one Rotary lunch or breakfast or something like that outside of this club every month for the year is kind of my goal, just to get out there and see what other clubs are doing. So.
All right. Anyone else? Someone has to have something that they would like to do in 2023 that maybe they didn't do this year. Mike.
Well, it's pretty easy for me because there's a lot of stuff I didn't get done this year, so it makes it easy for next year. I really think that we got to bring some more people into the club, and so my goal is to get 2 more people into the club, and I don't know how I'm going to do it, but that's my goal because we got tables that are empty, and this club only works if we got, you know, people in it, and so that's my job. We're going to get 2 people in, for me at least.
So just to follow up, we do have a goal of hitting 100. So we need 5 more members to hit 100. We have one
anyone
coming.
else?
We have one coming.
Anyone else? Did you raise your hand, Steve? Oh. Teak? Oh. Did you have one? Oh. Teak's got something here.
From International Committee, I'd love to get 2 more sponsors of our kids in Honduras so they can go beyond 6th grade into middle school and high school. So if you're interested, talk to me about sponsoring a kid in Honduras, and I'll look for them when I go down there in February.
All right, thanks, Teak. Anyone else? Did I see another hand back here? Mr. Wagner, you didn't have anything? No? Anyone else? Louis?
I was approached by the mayor and one other person, I think it was Schmitter, and they said that we're gonna, now that the city owns the Little League fields down at the river, they want to move them up to Northern State where the recreational element of the comprehensive plan says we can have ball fields. It's always been in that plan. It's right west of the memorial, the Veteran Memorial. So my goal is, first of all, I got to find somebody that was willing to go out and mow that whole thing out there. And then the second thing to get done is to get a group organized to move those 2 Little League fields up there and build a couple practice fields for those that coach like Josh, and probably a 90-footer and a 60-footer. So we got lots of room up there to do it. So that's my goal for 23.
All right, I like that one. Mr. Wagner.
So I finally sat down and took the time to sign up with the Rotary International Foundation, and I'm deducting money from my paycheck every month to go in there. So I would encourage, if you're in the club and you're not doing that, please sign up for that. That's a well intended how that money is spent throughout the international.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Getting my steps in today.
Okay, so since I'm going to be taking over as president in June, my goal, I guess, doesn't start until July 1st. I am following in the footsteps of 101 other people, so I just don't want to be the worst president that we've had. That's my goal.
You don't have to worry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. All right. Anyone else?
And then I looked over at Mike, and my goal is to be nice to Mike.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I might not make it.
Oh, that's a good one. Anyone else? I have one. I'll put one in. I have $2 here. So I'm the leader of our salmon barbecue. You know, the salmon barbecue is kind of lightly attended this year, and we had nice weather, and there was no COVID. We had great fish, great sides by Cheryl. You know, so we got to get the attendance up for our salmon barbecue. So that's going to be my goal this year, is to, you know, brainstorm with the board and Phil and see what we need to do to get our attendance up. So we need to get, you know, a couple hundred people there. So,
Yep, it's time to rebound from COVID.
okay. Danny.
Danny, you're on.
I just said that my short-term goal for the club is to organize the storage unit. It's a mess.
Hey, that's a great one. Hey, you can come do my garage too after you're done doing that. All right, anybody else? Then we'll go to Happy Bucks. If not, if anybody has any money left. Happy Bucks? Should have just stayed over here, huh?
Should have just kept it. It's $8. I, at the end of November, finished my last class for my grad school. In October, I took a teaching position with the district as a special education resource teacher at Evergreen and Mary Purcell. So I'm a master of education. So I'm happy about that.
It's awesome. Congratulations, Christine.
Anyone else? Chris?
I got $2 because my Christmas kitten was a big hit among the kiddos. So that was a cool surprise for me.
Okay, Josh, I got a happy 20 for
All right.
Team December. Nice job this month. Even found a program for today. One of our very own, Daryl Heisler. So I'll Venmo 20 over to Steve. Is there anybody else? Anybody? Happy Bucks.
Anyone else? So we'll turn it over to Daryl.
All right, a quick
All right.
introduction to our esteemed colleague and Rotarian from the greatest Rotary Club in the universe, Daryl Heisler, who is an expert in fantasy football. He convinced me to come in and be part of the team this year in his group. And he's got quite the story to tell around fantasy football. And Josh, thanks for priming the pump with that. Daryl, it's all yours.
Thank you, President Phil. I don't have quite the story to tell, but I'll try to tell it. As you know, over the years, we keep getting beat on the head by Louis and Mike Crawford. And says, when a Rotarian asks you to do something, you always say, yes. So last night, Phil called me about fantasy football, and I said yes. So what you're seeing up there is Phil and I joined forces this year. After he retired, he said he wants to be on a fantasy football team. So I said, okay, let's do it. So anyway, before I get into that, I'll just talk about a little bit, like Josh said, the history goes back into the 1960s with George Blanda being quarterback. So I came to Sedro Woolley in 1991 as the assistant principal at the high school, and we started a fantasy football league that fall. Sam Janke had done one before, so he kind of got us going. What we did was, so he said, okay, let's everybody meet at 6 o'clock in the morning in Steve McCart's room, and we'll draft our players. Never having done that before, had no clue what it involves. So basically the rules at that time when we started were, you have to draft 2 quarterbacks, three running backs, 3 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, 2 kickers, and 2 defense, because those are the people that they consider score. Defenses are considered defense and special teams. So when somebody runs a kickoff back and you've got that defense or special teams, you get 6 points for the touchdown. When somebody on the defense intercepts a pass and runs it back for a touchdown, you get 6 points. Otherwise, you just get 2 for the interception. When somebody recovers a fumble, you get 2 points. If they pick up the fumble and run it in for a touchdown, your defense gets 6 points. So that's kind of how scoring works. As far as quarterbacks go, the quarterbacks, when they throw, you get so many points for the number of yards that they get. So if they throw for 10 yards, you get 1 point. Or 20 yards, you get 1 point. If a receiver receives a 10-yard pass, you get a point for that. When a running back, for every 10 yards a running back gets, you get a point. They get a touchdown, you get 6 points, and so on. So that's kind of how the scoring goes. What you're seeing up out here on the board is, and then at the last 3 weeks of the season, you end up having the playoffs. So whoever's ranked in your league, and every league can do it differently. In our league, the top 8 teams go into the playoffs. And how many people in here have actually been in a or have been in a fantasy football league or have a team? So about half the people in here have. So, the last, not the very last week, because the very last week, what happens the last week of the football season? Anybody know? Usually, yeah, your good teams sit their players so you don't get any points. And so a lot of teams decided to have the playoffs, not the last 3 weeks, but forget about the last week, then go the 3 weeks before. Like, for instance, right now, there are 18 weeks in the season. So you go weeks 15, 16, and 17, you have the playoffs. So that you're pretty sure that your top players are not going to be sitting that championship week. Phil and I lucked out and we end up getting into the championship, which is this coming week. We do have, like Josh said, we have 2 of the top point getters in Pat Mahomes and Justin Jefferson on our team. So getting back to how the draft happens. So before the season starts, your team sets up a draft, and now it's all done online rather than everybody getting in the same room together. So we're online. A lottery happens, and so you've got in our case, we've got 14 teams, and so first team gets to pick, second team, and all the way up to team 14. Then it turns around and goes backwards. So if you got the very first pick, then you don't get to pick again. If there's 14 teams in your league, you don't pick again until the 28th pick. So wherever we ended up being able to pick Pat Mahomes as one of our players, not knowing that he was going to be the top point getter so far this season. We got lucky. And then also Justin Jefferson being the wide receiver like that. So getting into the playoffs, we end up actually in our league being, I think, 4th or 5th place. And so we won our first game 2 weeks ago. And then this last week, we beat the number 1 team, or actually the number 1 team got knocked off. We beat them this week. And now next week we play another team for the championship. As far as how our league goes is now it's online. So we go through ESPN.com. If you want to start your own, you can. It's free. You can just go on there, tell them how many teams you're going to have in your league. You get your people signed up with their email addresses. They get a login, and then you set up a time for your draft. And then at the time of the draft, it starts, and the first team's on the clock, just like the normal draft happens with the NFL, the NBA, all those drafts. It's like, who's on the clock? You have so many minutes to pick your player. If you don't pick a player in here, what'll happen is it'll automatically pick one for you. Whoever has been ranked the highest player for a highest player in a position that you need will automatically be drafted for you if you're not there or you don't get your pick in time. And so that's how that works. And then it goes through the whole thing. You finish at that time, you've got your team of players that play. And that is, in our case, we have 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a defense and special teams, and a kicker. And then you have a backup for each of those positions. You have an extra quarterback, an extra running back, an extra wide receiver, an extra defense, an extra kicker, and an extra tight end. And so you have to decide who you're going to play that weekend, and the other guys will just sit. So even if they get a lot of points, like ours did this weekend, we ended up having a player that was sitting that was a running back, and he scored a lot of points, but we didn't get to count him because he wasn't on our starting 8 players. So that's typically how most leagues are run. You have some flexibility in how you decide you want to do it. If you're running a league or if you're in a league, you can get a bunch of friends together. You can play for nothing, or you can everybody throw in an entry fee and then divide up that money at the end of the year when the playoffs are done and the season's over. Another thing that happens when the season's over is they've got additional fantasy. Like right now, it's too late for this year, but for a league. But you could actually join or start a league called the playoffs. So you can set up a playoff fantasy football competition for once the playoffs start, where you get, I don't know, $100,000 to spend, and then each player costs so much money, and you can select 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers. You can select the same people, and then you just play those people throughout the playoffs. Those are different games that are going on. That's just football. Of course, there's baseball, fantasy baseball, there's fantasy basketball, there's fantasy hockey, fantasy golf. Every single sport, I believe, is all represented in some of these websites as having a fantasy team. So there's endless opportunities for people to be able to do those things. The other thing you can do if you're interested is you could have there's a competition on ESPN where you could have everybody pick which team they think is going to win that weekend. And then every week you pick the teams you think are going to win. And at the end of the year, then somebody is crowned the champion because they got the most games right. Another game that they play is they call it the Eliminator. So you start off and you get to pick 1 team that you think is going to win the first week. And if they win, you get to move on to the second week, and you get to pick a team. You can't pick that same team again. You only get to pick them once. The second week, then you pick a team that you haven't picked before. If they win, you keep going. And so until everybody is eliminated, till there's 1 person left, and then that person wins. So there's many different things that you can do throughout the time to be able to do these things. So does there anybody have any questions? I can see there's a lot of blank stares out there. Mike? What we've always done at the league we started back with Sam Jenkins, everybody throws in $20. So if we have 14, and so the other thing that's important is we only have 14 teams because there are only 32 NFL teams. And if everybody picks 2 quarterbacks, you end up using 28 of the quarterbacks. And so there's still 4 of them available to be able to pick. So we've got 14 teams. Everybody throws in $20. You've got $280 sitting out there. And then it's divided up among the players at the end of the season, the people who play. John? You can. If depending on how serious you take it, you can get stressed out. Yeah. Or you can it can be a stress reliever, just having fun. But yeah. Becky. Well, once everything is set up, it just takes a couple minutes a week just to decide who is going to play. You should check back to see, because with football, you could get a late, like one of your starters could all of a sudden be ruled out for the week. And back when we had COVID, those things were happening all the time. So you had to go back and check in right before the game started to see if any of your players were out. So you had to switch in a new player. So that kind of thing takes time. And it's all how much time you want to spend. If you spend a lot of time researching and stuff like that, you can spend a lot of time. I try not to do that. I try to put my people in if I know they're all playing, and then check back. And with the Thursday game, you got to check on Thursday because they're playing tonight. And if you have somebody in there who's not playing, then you lose the points for that week. So you do have to check back if you want to keep up. Yes, Chris. We do not. No, we don't get that. I don't think so. Ours, we're not that serious about it. It's just kind of, we've always just kind of as it goes and winter. And so the other thing we do keep track of. So there's the $20 entry fee, but then every week, if you lose, you do have to, at the end, you have to pay $1 for every loss your team has, and the winner wins $1 for every game that they win. So there is an incentive to that as well. And we also charge when you have to make a transaction. It costs you an extra 50, so the program keeps track of all that stuff. So at the end of the year, it knows how much people owe and how much they win, and all that stuff's taken care of through the website, which is kind of nice when ESPN and NFL and some of those places started putting these together and started doing it. You also notice that I started noticing a lot of players start talking about the fact that they're on they made a lot of points for their fantasy owners this weekend. So that was happening too. And it's like, so it's becoming, it has been quite popular over the years. Any other questions? Josh? Yeah. So every week, ESPN in our league, they rank all the players as far as they take a look at the player, what they've done in the past, the team they're playing, and ranks the team, whether they're, let's say, for instance, Pat Mahomes, and they're playing, who are they playing this week? They're playing Denver. So if you look on here, Denver's ranked #1 against quarterbacks. So it looks like, even though Denver's been terrible this year, evidently their defense against quarterbacks has been pretty good. So they're #1 in the league. So ESPN is projecting Pat Mahomes this week to get 20.4 points. So you take a look at him and you take a look at your other quarterback and you decide, do you want to just go with him or do you want to go with the other guy because they're playing against the #1 supposed defense against quarterbacks. Aaron Jones, running back from Green Bay, is playing against a team that's ranked 20th. He's expected to get almost 12 points. So strategy is you just have to go through your roster and decide who's going to play that week. I don't know, Schweigert's in our league. What do you decide as far as strategy goes, Mike? Just pick whatever ESPN says, that's who you're going to go with. How much time do you spend a week looking at it, Mike? That's pretty typical. It's not a real high priority. So it doesn't. Again, it's how much time you actually want to put into it. How about you, Josh? Yeah. Yeah. And that is very true, because that's what we've done. Basically, I call Phil up and say, okay, who should we play this week? I'll let you decide between Tyler Lockett and Brandon Ayuk from San Francisco, and we just decide who we're going to put in there. We look at what ESPN says, who's going to score the most, and they're not always right, obviously. Sometimes they get it way wrong, but that's basically what it is and how you do it. Rich, are you in a league? No, were you? Okay. Well, game time. So tonight, if your team is playing, if you have anybody on your team that plays in tonight's game at 5:15 when the game starts, they lock you out. And the same thing for the other games I was talking about. If you're picking who's going to win the games that week, you have to get you have to pick tonight's team by the time the game starts. Otherwise, you're locked out and you'll get a loss. So it automatically takes care of all that for you, though. You just have to remember that there's a game on Thursday night, and that's what takes the most thought, is remembering that you've got those things coming up if you're gonna, keep track of things. But it's just like anything else. We have about 5 or 6 people that by the middle of the season have just decided they've lost enough. They just don't do it anymore, and they just let their team just ride for the rest of the season or whatever. So. And then we get to finally, when the season's over, you get a little break. And then come August, then we get ready to go again. We do not. No. Want to explain what a keeper league is? So once you have a player 1 year, you get an opportunity to keep 1 or 2 or 3 of them for the following year. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't, right? So anything else? Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you.
Daryl, nicely done. Thank you very much. You do have a parting gift from the greatest Rotary Club in the universe to help with your fantasy football checking teams off and players off. Thank you. So is there any other club business? There's 2 cards going around. If you bring those cards up, Christine. Grant writing seminar. We have to do that every year. Yeah, Teak did it, helped last year. I'm not sure. If you need somebody, I can do that. Yep. Okay. Any other club business? Okay, I want to thank Megan for coming. Megan, thank you for coming. Don, thank you good to see you again. Thank you for joining us today. Karen, how well did you do? Okay, thank you for joining us. We're all going to reap the benefit from that. Daryl, once again, thank you very much for saying yes. I do really appreciate it. And Happy New Year.